if you didn't do personas, or if you're like don't have time for personas, like don't include them, and don't include things just for the sake of including them. Upon first glance, the first section about me, it looks really long. I feel like there's several key things as a hiring manager that would make me turn away from this.
So Grace, what are
Yeah,
your
my first
thoughts?
impression is I think Gina does a great job like highlighting her background and using that as like a advantage, or like leveraging her background in her, I guess, like career pivot to UX design. But upon first glance, I feel like this page is a bit verbose. Um, in my opinion, as a hiring manager, I would like not read all the paragraphs. Instead, I might focus on just like I'm a former educator with 10 years of experience crafting engaging inclusive learning experience, and that's it. I feel like the last two paragraphs are great, but I feel like they might be better for an about section.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, nice. And just to be clear, when you're talking about the extra like words in particular, just here or elsewhere
Just
in the
there,
text as well?
right now.
Okay, okay. What else about this page? Like, any other feedback?
I
Or
really
what you're thinking
like
about?
how she starts with the how might we statements. It gives me an idea of like what the project's about without clicking on it, which I love because oftentimes I see a lot of portfolios that are just like, oh, like a random name, and then I have to click in to see what it's about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with that. So that both pieces of feedback I think are really fantastic. So Gina, I 100% endorse exactly what Grace is saying. I think this is a little bit too much that could just work great on your about page. And I think it's super interesting to include the fact that you're a former educator. So like you're bringing your background about how that applies. The only thing I'd say is like potentially what kind of, you don't have to get into this if you don't want to, but if like you can be more nuanced with like potentially types of companies that you're interested in, types of industries you're potentially interested in, like to just show that what direction you want to head it towards. But I also, one of my favorite things on this page is how you had your design question, or how might we, as the way that you interact with this, how you understand what's going on. The only thing I would potentially switch is which is bigger. I think this is, to me, your how might we is more important than who it's for, from my perspective, because I care more about the problem you're solving than who it's for. And so I think maybe these, like in my opinion, the logos could be smaller, like more like a tag, and then the how might we's could be bigger, or you leave it the same size and they just drop in size.
Yeah, I mean, starting from the top, I think that she did a really good job with the logo, all the way to the top left. Yeah, so see like kind of a G that that has a bit of negative space, and I like how she took the top part of the G as part of the visual language for how she does the image and how she runs the image too, and that carries throughout also in her case studies. Where you can see that same like arc type thing, and that's taken directly from the G of her name, and I think that's kind of a cool touch that she carries throughout. And then in terms with
the L is in there too, right? In her G, the L.
Yeah,
is
no,
too.
it's really clever. Yeah, it's just an L inverted. It's really well done. It's very simple too, and super scalable. So like, really good job, right off the bat. Then yeah, I think I have to agree with both of you on the hero section and on all that text. I feel like, you know, it's great to talk about the past experience. She's a former educator, and that's good for us to know. And at the same time, I'm like, well, but what are you now? Are you a UX designer, right? That's kind of lacking like the understanding of what she's specializing in now. And so in order to get there, you have to read paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. But then paragraph 2 is a bit more about research. Then the last one is about UX design. And so I'm like, well, is she more of a researcher, or is she more of a UX designer? And I'm kind of left, I'm a bit unsure, right? And so I think that there is a way to take everything that she wrote and condense it down in just that first paragraph in a way that reveals her background but who she is right now as a designer, in a way that's simple, quick, and efficient for the audience to read. So yeah. 100%. And then in terms of the case studies, I feel like maybe a bit more metadata would have been useful, you know, like date, when was this done, what is that company, vertical, what's the industry, right? Just like key metadata in maybe like really small caption text, just to add a little bit more and help to make a decision as to what do I want to open or not, right? And then in terms of verbose, I agree with what you said, Grace, is there is a bit too much text. And I think that at the bottom, she also maybe wrote a little too much in the Let's Connect section. I'm like, well, how necessary is that, right? I'm like, wait, what is this a job post almost, like, right? And so I feel like this is too much, right? But overall, I have a good sense that she knows her craft. She does a good job at presenting information. I feel like if you just condense information down and synthesize it down to help us quickly distill everything that we need to know, she would do really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So, Grace,
Yeah, I also
ratings.
forgot to mention the promotional section. I'm a little bit confused of what that is because I see graphic design. When I click on it, I just see the picture expanded. As a hiring manager, I want to know if you are interested in like UX or graphic design. So that might be a little bit more confusing. Maybe this could be done in like a different section, or saying that graphic design work, like just highlighting your visual design or graphic design skills on top of what you have is like, I think in my opinion, a strength. But the title promotional work, it makes me a little bit confused. Like, oh, is this an ad, or is this my work? Or so I would be more clear with that.
Yeah. Great call out. That's something that I had jotted down in my mind to talk about. I totally forgot and nailed it, Grace. 100%. You're absolutely right. The one thing that we very much stress is that all people, if they have previous graphic design background, that's great. You shouldn't hide it, but it shouldn't go with your UX work. It should have its own tab, a place where it lives on its own, so it's very clear what you're focused on and what you do. Because when you include graphic design work alongside UX work, it's unclear what you want and what you specialize in. So love the call out, Grace, and thank you for bringing
and especially because, you know, like she up top, she says that she's a former educator, right? And so now I'm like, well, is she a former educator? Is she a graphic designer? Was she, which is the one that we should remember, right? And so now I'm extra confused as to what her past is and what her present is. Is it UX design or is it UX research? So
well, in the last minute, Grace, what's
I would
your
say
rating?
It's good. I feel like it's pretty good, but I feel like there's several key things as a hiring manager that would make me turn away from this, from my honest opinion, just because if to me it's a little bit unclear of what she wants to do. And for the promotional work, I'm also confused, like, does she want to do graphic design? I would say good, just like 3 stars from a hiring manager's point of view, which seems like what she's trying to do with her, or get a job with her portfolio.
Yeah. Ludovic, what are your thoughts?
I'm a little conflicted. I think that I would have say good overall, because, you know, like, I can tell there is good craft behind all of that. I'm just not extremely convinced about, you know, how laser focused the positioning is and how past and present are actually lining up. So I feel like I'm in between meh and good, but I can tell that I could give her a good, between good and solid, if she just did a few changes that wouldn't take much work. So, but yeah, that's where she's at. I think good. Yeah,
I agree. That's exactly where I was sitting, was at a good. I think that there's just a few changes that need to be made, and it could very quickly go to a solid. I think the thing that would bring it to a kick-ass for me is the changes we all talked about, but then also adding more personality. So I think that the way that this, like, I love this. The you know, carrying that theme throughout is nice. I just don't see very much personality yet, which is okay. Like, it's not detrimental, but that's where you really stand out and like show that you're unique, and there's a little bit more personality and things that make you unique.
That's true. Yeah.
So okay. Sweet. Nice, 3 goods. Well, it's time for our first palate cleanser, Grace, which is where we all take a sip of our beverage and we ask you another kind of random question. So, what advice would you give to someone on their portfolio if you did not want them to get a job?
Ooh, I would tell them to make it pop and leave it to them to interpret. So like they make the logo bigger. Just make it really pop and like unoriginal.
What? Yes.
Yeah.
Make everything pop.
Animate it. Make it
everything
move.
pops.
Make it jazz.
Yeah. Make it move. Oh my god. Could you imagine? Like, things are just like slightly shaking on the screen.
Can't read anything, you're just like looking at it and you're like, this is driving me insane.
So poppy.
Good one. You would never get a job, for sure.
No, it would not go well. Well, let's hop into the next section then, which is going to be the About page. So I'm going to set the 2-minute timer again. I'm not going to press the ambient music by accident. I was not paying attention. And let's get after it.
A few moments later.
Okay, Grace, what are your thoughts?
For me, upon first glance, the first section about me, it looks really long. I would love I like, for me, this paragraph reads to me like how I got into design, maybe a section towards the bottom. I would personally focus on like your past experiences. Like, for example, I know Gina mentions like special educator, which is great. Maybe like saying like teens were notoriously challenging to please. I feel like that's like too much detail for like an overview page, like about yourself. I would maybe focus on like your past experience, like in teaching, or maybe like what if you got like a design certificate, or did any like design side projects, or maybe talk about a bit about your background from like the work you've done on your homepage. Like make it more focused about design instead of your past. But I feel like all these are really interesting to include because it paints a picture of like how you got to where you are today, but it might not be what you want to mainly focus on to hiring managers who are skimming through your portfolio, probably taking less than 30 seconds to read all that. So you want to make sure you surface the most important information. I also noticed that you have captions like exploring Barcelona, which is pretty cool. Like it shows that you like traveling, but I probably wouldn't include that description in your about page, and maybe like leave that out for more brevity. I also really like the outside of UX part because it gives the reader like a picture of who you are as well outside of design. And yeah, I like those, and yeah, I recommend keeping that. But maybe my suggestion would be having the about me more focused on like your design experience, and then your other relevant experience, like an overview, and then maybe additional section about what you learned from those additional experiences, like how you dealt with like teens and everything too. And then I like the testimonials as well. I think it's also great to include them on the bottom too. And I noticed there's LinkedIn twice. There's like LinkedIn there,
Yeah.
And LinkedIn on the footer. I would keep them in one place, maybe just at the footer, because I look on the other pages, it's like on the top. Oh, LinkedIn in three places. There's a LinkedIn on top, and then LinkedIn in the middle, and LinkedIn in the footer.
Can't miss it.
Huh? Yeah, you can't miss it. So I think just keeping the LinkedIn, like removing like the call to action, the primary button LinkedIn would be my advice as well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I totally agree on all that. Ludwig, what are your thoughts?
I like it, and I think that it can also be improved, right? I think that it will be. I feel like it's the same feedback that I have for the home screen. I was like, wait, what's our past and what's our present? And I feel like I also get that conflict here where I'm like, well, we like more clarity on as to, like, why are you telling me that story right now? And what should I take away from it? And I just missed what do I need to take away from this? So I feel like she could just, if you were to just chunk it down, almost like create as a timeline as to, like past 10 years, and it's like visually on the timeline, and then you see a picture of her teaching with kids or something, right? In context, with a short, like super small, like H1, and maybe a bit more of a paragraph text below the next section, and then then I'm a UX designer or whatever, but more chunked down. Then I would see the progress, and I would see like her past clearly, and I would see her present clearly, and I would identify different pictures to what she's talking about, and that will help me to stay more attuned to what she's trying to say, right? But other than that, I mean, I think that it's fine. I don't see too much wrong with it. But yeah, maybe chunking it down will help a lot. Outside of UX section, I think is cool. And see, like, again, seeing another picture of her outside of work, and I think that's great. It helps connect with her at a human level. And yeah, so that's more of what I mean, like quick outside of UX, I see a picture of her. Cool, I can quickly relate those two things together, right? Same thing for above, right? And then last thing, I would say that because the quotes at the bottom are center aligned, it makes it even harder to read, just because there is so much text. So I would just left align that, and that would be my feedback. Yeah.
Nice. So definitely agree with both of what you guys are talking about. I think the thing I would add a caveat to what Ludovic said from my perspective, where you have what Grace had talked about, where you have a chunk down section at the top overview, and then if you wanted to have that timeline view, it would go here. You could do the entire thing as a timeline view, but I think like you start with the overview of who you are, and then you can allow people to dive into the details, and then you do more of that. You can do it chunk down. You can do it his way too, if you just have everything be really small. I think the thing that was missing here is why you went into UX. Like, what made you switch like, why did you want to go from being a teacher? Like, what drove you out? And like that, I think is super interesting, because like at the end of the day, that's your origin story into UX, and that's kind of what belongs here to a certain extent. I agree with all the other feedback. One of the things that I was thinking about is like why you didn't potentially keep that more door shape.
Oh yes,
Like continuing on here, because you had it on the homepage. Like keep continuing that same pattern. That's something that I was wondering why. I didn't mind the captions. I think maybe as like a lighter text, so they're not drawing so much attention, would maybe the way to get around that. And then coming back around, I think more personality is like just kind of like on the homepage for me. I think adding more of who you are. Like, I love this because it tells me who you are, and like at the end of the day, like people want to work with others that they like. It's just the way it works. We do. By showing more of who you are, you're building more of an authentic connection with someone, even if they haven't quite met you yet. And so letting that play out in your writing, and like I love the pictures you're including. It's just adding more of that, I think, really helps bring out more, just more of that stuff that makes people interested. Definitely get rid of the LinkedIn button here. And then the other thing I'd say is find more quotes. I can guarantee you that you can get a lot more people to chime in on this. And the fact that when I click on one, it goes to right, and then I click to right again, it immediately goes back. It makes me wonder why you haven't at least got 3, if not more than that. And I can, with people in your life or mentors or other people, like I'm sure you can find other people to add to that, even if they're small quotes. But it adds, I like the fact that you had it. It was kind of a testimonial section, which I thought was really interesting. And I think adding more to it would only benefit you and make it feel more robust. So all in all, Grace,
I feel like it's good 3, just because I like how she describes like how she got to where she is today, but it's unclear to me what she wants to get out of the portfolio.
Totally.
Other than that, I feel like that's the main thing giving me a 3.
Yeah, I think I'm at a 3 as well. I'm a good. I think that storytelling is probably the biggest missing piece here to go to a solid. And if that's nailed pretty well, then I think that can go to a solid pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm with you both. We're all vibing today on those same ratings. I'd say definitely a good for me. Like, the thing that's really great about your portfolio so far is that it's not all over the place. Like, it feels very consistent. Like, that's really great. Like, we're not giving you a lot of visual feedback. That's wonderful, because so many times I feel like I hop into these and we're providing visual feedback. Like, there's not a lot of visual feedback, which is great. It's really like the details that I feel like she needs to get right when it comes to the storytelling and like taking out this sort of thing, potentially adding more of those arches back, adding more personality. Like, that's what's going to make her stand out. And so that actually makes me really excited for this, as far as like that it wouldn't take that much for her to go from a good to, because I'd say she's like really a good, like, midway between that and solid here. It wouldn't take her much to go up, for sure. Cool. Well, what case study do you all want to review? We can go, I would assume the first one, because it's the first one she has, but we could also just be...
The first is always the way to go. Where's the button, though? Okay. I completely forgot to ask earlier.
Button to click on it? I think it's just a card.
But there is no interactive... it zooms in a little bit, Cool.
It does. It's just, you don't really notice it unless you, like, because it's such a big card.
It's I want to add a little button there.
Yeah, so that's something to note. Definitely something to note, Gina, in terms of adding more of an interaction to make it very clear where you're hovered. Okay, Grace, on the spot, would you rather work with the world's best product manager and the world's most mediocre developer, or the opposite, the world's most mediocre PM and the world's
I would work
best
with the
dev?
world's best dev, because I feel like I've gotten a lot of confidence in my product management skills that I could probably help out with that as well. But I'm not personally as stronger, in my opinion, than for dev compared to product management. So that's why I picked that. And with engineering, you can build anything. With product management, I feel more comfortable like teaching myself that than I do like hardcore dev skills. Even though I majored in that in college, this is just like how my brain works.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. I understand that side of things too, especially if you have the world's best dev. You can accomplish a lot. You do all the things. No, I dig it. Cool. Well, let's hop into the first case study then. I'm going to press play, and then I'll let you both know when the time's running out.
A few moments later.
Okay, Grace, what are your
My
thoughts?
first thought is very long, and I feel like you could think of any additional info and like create another section called appendix on the bottom and loop them there. But upon first glance, I see like you probably should use more padding in your section because it looks like the illustration is very close to the border and it looks like bad, like visually on the top. And then I like right there, like like that. This does not look clean upon first impression. And for the project overview, I liked how you started with what the project was and clearly describe your contributions. Since this is a redesign, I would recommend putting like before and after right there so we can clearly see, oh, this is what you did. I liked the problem and design challenges and importance of it as well. I feel like it's clear, but I feel like you could sum it up in shorter words. I also felt like I liked how you annotated like what was the problem. I'm curious like if that was the actual landing page of the website. It looks like a marketing banner, but that could be the actual one. But I liked how the problems are clearly called out and annotated like that. I like my process. I like that part because it's not like slapping in a double diamond or slapping in a design thinking diagram without context. It actually like shows the flow of what she did. For the illustrations, I recommend taking them out just because I feel like they don't add any additional information, and it looks like to me taken from a stock photos site. At least this is what I seeing a lot of different portfolios, so I would remove that. I liked how you highlighted that part's good. Like I liked how you clearly explained like user interviews, accessibility check, competitive analysis. For the what we learned section, I like that as well. For the barriers, for all the sticky notes, I would recommend maybe like not including that or putting that in the appendix section and just focus on what you took away from all of that. And then scrolling down, I liked the percentages, how the metrics were clearly displayed right there. The quotes, I would recommend not including those or summarizing them or including them in the appendix section. For define, I would recommend putting personas in the appendix section as well. So think of the appendix section as any like design artifacts that helped you get to your conclusion, but keeping your case study like what you got from all of that, like the data. Yeah.
And sorry to interrupt, Grace, but
cheers.
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 Persona, yeah.
Yeah, there was a persona, and so cheers.
Yeah, persona.
Thank you, Gina.
I knew it. I was like, I gotta remember for this because
design vacations. I saw a lot of gamification. I didn't have time to like read through the whole thing, but it seems interesting that the client decided to use gamification to increase engagement for this specific audience of like households. I would love to like understand why, because it seems I'm very interested because I work in the games industry, but I would love to know like why it was there. I didn't get a chance to read through a lot of this stuff, but in general, I would just try to see like what could you include in the appendix and keep the case study just like what you took away from it. I'm just scrolling down and I liked how you showed like your different iterations. It shows that like divergent and then convergent thinking as well. The sketches are good too. Design system. So I see, I liked the sketches and design system. I feel like I'm like, when I think of the process, I feel like visual design comes towards the end. When I see it here, it's like, oh, so you like kind of like design. I guess like I'm a little bit confused of like how you came to this design decision, like why those colors, why this font. So I would recommend like either including another section describing how you got to it, having more details, or probably not including it, just because I'm a little bit confused. In the sketches,
and pushing it towards the end, because right now it feels like way like you still haven't even figured out.
The wireframes.
It's like, wait, why? Prototype, like it's weird. I want to talk about this in a little bit too. Keep going, Grace.
I liked sketching to prototype. I like this little carousel. It shows like sketch, mid-fi, and then hi-fi. Maybe I missed it, but I would love more information about how you got between each steps, like what changed between each steps, because it seems like the mid-fi I see like different buttons on the hi-fi, so like more of your thinking of like why you decided to maybe put 2 buttons on the hi-fi instead of the mid-fi, and like what changed, or like what was how did your like process or your designs change throughout that process, and why, using like data you've gotten from like your research or your business partners. I see iteration 1. I would love to see more explorations, and I've always liked I like knowing like what kind of explorations someone explored and like why they decide to go with the one they decided to go with. So more of that, more you can show that like double diamond, like that diverge and like converging back. Testing it, which is, I see testing. I feel like, yeah, the feedback, I would summarize this whole section and not include all their quotes. I see iteration 2 now. Okay, so that makes more sense. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to.
we didn't finish it, get all this far down. Yeah, we all were like, oh gosh.
Yeah,
running out of time.
Yeah, gamification, A/B testing. Like, I like this process, but I feel like it's a little bit hard to follow, just because I see everything as like primary, and I'm just like having a hard time following along with like your storytelling, and like how you got to the next step. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. A/B.
That's probably my biggest piece of feedback on this, and I'll get to that in a minute, but just to like really hammer that home, is the storytelling here is like non-existent to a certain extent. It felt to me like she would talk a little bit about what she was doing and then like kind of how it led to the next thing, but it was really like, I did all these things. It was very much like, I did this thing, I did this thing, I did this thing, the team did this thing, and it felt very out of order and like a random smattering.
It felt like a boot camp.
It
felt like
really
right off the bat boot camp project. Like, you can tell from a mile away, you know? Yeah.
Same here. Same. It does feel like it's like you need to fulfill like a checklist and make sure you got everything. And I feel like everything you include in your case study should be intentional. Like, if you didn't do personas, or if you're like don't have time for personas, like don't include them, and don't include things just for the sake of including them.
Yes.
Yeah. Deliver. Yeah.
Like,
I like the annotations of your landing page, though. I think it's very clear to follow, and it clearly shows like your intentionality behind the designs, which is important, because as a hiring manager, I want to make sure that my design team makes logical, rational design decisions based on data, and backed by research and stuff. So like, just by skimming it, I see that. Usability test. I feel like, the usability testing results, I would not include this. I would just include like a takeaway sentence. The quotes. This is from the CEO. So I think that's, I think because this is from the CEO of your client, I think you could keep it there. Reflection, next steps, what I learned. I really like the what I learned section, because it shows that you're self-aware, you're striving to improve, and that's one of the key skills like me as a hiring manager would look for. And this is just like speaking from my experience interviewing people at EA too. What I like in my experience, like reviewing portfolios at EA.
I so appreciate that, Grace. Yeah, super great feedback. Ludovic, what are your thoughts?
Man, I mean, when I was looking at the case study, I think that so far it's the page where I'm like, wow, like we were good before, but I feel like I'm gonna have to go for a mayor, or if not, needs the overall, just because of the fact that there's so much information. I have to do so much work. I feel like the hero section, I don't really even understand what third act is all about. I feel like that paragraph is so complex to understand. I was like, okay, I need to get an understanding first of what this entire thing is all about. After reading it twice, like, I still don't fully get it. I kind of generally get it, but I'm like, wait, what is that exactly? And then in the project overview section, how under my contribution, it says UI designer. And I was like, okay, so she must...
I know.
Yeah, I was like, wait,
so
did you do UX or did you do UI? And then when she says UI, but below there are a lot of UX things like sitemap, UX copywriting, personas, usability testing, A/B testing. I'm like, wait, so that's UX, but above you say UI. So I guess because you say UI and it's the primary thing, I guess that's what I should take as the truth, right? But then looking at the UI screen on the right hand side, I'm like, wow, this UI is not good enough, right? Like,
And actually, pause real fast. we all mentioned on the homepage that she wasn't clear about what she was doing, like that she was about
Yes,
UX
written
design
research and
whatnot.
UX.
Maybe this is why, but it doesn't, like, she needs to be backing
Yes.
that up with her case studies, and so it's unclear what she's even after, especially after, like, on that homepage with the promotional stuff. It's like, okay, well, what actually are you aiming? Are you aiming for a UX position? Are you aiming for a UI position? It's really
Big time,
unclear.
and that's exactly how I felt. I was like, wait, now I don't even know if she's a UX or UI or research. I was like, where am I? And so anyway, so the third act, if it's truly the case that she's more into UI design, at least for this project, well then, like just seeing the right hand side screen, the actual UI screen, I'm like, this is not there yet in terms of quality of UI. From a hierarchy perspective, from a negative space perspective, from a hierarchy of typography, the color scheme, how the baseline of the text almost touches the bottom of the green buttons. I mean, I'm like, there's so many things screaming at me from a UI perspective, and just like, all right, well, I almost want to stop looking, right? Just because I'm lost. I don't even know what it's all about. And from the right hand side scrolling bar, I'm like, wow, this is really long. And yeah, anyway, and then another thing that I noticed in the problems section above is that on the home screen she did such an amazing job. She brought the how am I to we question. I was like, yes, this is so clear.
Yes.
But the problem, if you scroll up, Colton, the problem here, it's not even here. I'm like, just give me the how am I to is the simplest form of your problem, right? And I think that would help connect quickly. Just put your how am I to there, and maybe that's all we need to know, right? And then I can move on very quickly, right? So then, I mean, I didn't have time to look at most of it. One thing I would say about the my process section, I was like hovering over the numbers, like, oh wait, what? They're clickable, and it takes you all the way back up. I'm like, wait, why is this?
No, it takes you. It just took me down. So I see. She's trying to help you understand where to go, but this actually isn't helpful. Then it's not expected that happens. If this is on like a side nav, that might be interesting, where it's showing you where you are in the process. But like this, I had no idea. And on top of that, it's not that. So
anyway, I would just make this not clickable. And again, my process is like, well,
not include it.
It's only the UX process in general anyway that everyone knows, right? So you discover, you all listen. So I don't know if it's necessarily truly useful. And then I agree with you, Grace, by the way, on the illustrations. I feel like there are a lot of visual weight and clutter to the page. But yeah, overall then I didn't go that much further, to be honest. And I think a lot of hiring managers will have trouble to stay and focused on what's happening here, right? And the likelihood that they're going to want to scroll and consume more is getting lower by the second. So I think I would just number one piece of feedback, I would say I would have to clean up the storytelling a little bit, and I would say strip out everything that you don't need. And I think there is a lot in there that you don't need to tell a better story. It's not a quantity thing. It's more like, how do I deliver it? What were the necessary parts in the UX process that I need to show? What were the ones that I did but are really not necessary to my story right now? And I feel like there is a lot of that, and extracting, removing is oftentimes adding. Is helping, so yeah, that's
less is more.
Less is more, yes.
Less is more. I feel like that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback on this. Less is more. Also, kind. I said clear is kind. I don't feel like this is super clear. To both of your points, It's not super clear. And so I think the storytelling needs to be worked on first and foremost. Like, why did you do these things? How did that lead to the next thing? And so on and so forth. But you don't need to provide all of everything. Like, you can, if you want to, you can have a detail section that's open and say, hey, see more about this. And then it expands and you see all of it. But what's the high level overview? If this was put into a kid's book that was broken down into 10 pages, 12 pages of simple sentences, what would that look like? That's kind of one of the things to be thinking about. It's if I can make this super simple. Illustrations 100% with you. Especially when she said that she's a UI designer. The UI design makes me concerned. And now, don't get me wrong, that's a teachable process. But when you look at the colors, that's fine. The green's fine and whatnot. But the padding of the buttons, the choice of the font, this looks like way too much to me, Comic Sans. That it makes it feel not professional. It makes it feel like a ClickFunnels site, where they use all their Comic Sans and whatnot, or whatever the hell they're using to make it feel really approachable. And so it was a lot of stuff like that. It felt very much you randomly hop into this part right here with these avatars that she created, and then there's the iteration. It's it just felt so disjointed that I didn't want to follow along, and which is so disappointing because kind of to both of your points, the how might we on the homepage was like really inviting. It's like, okay, this is awesome. Like she gets it. Like I'm going to see this and it's going to be an excellent case study. And like, I feel like even though we gave, a good on both the other pages, like I was expecting at least a good on this. And like, I'm sitting at a needs an overhaul. Like, I don't think I'm at a mat. I think I'm at a needs an overhaul on this. And like, I have a feeling that most hiring managers would be feeling the same way. And so that is, I think, what needs to be focused. Needs an overhaul, really go through, like rewrite the story, make sure it's clear what's going on, include the how might we, make sure the visual design matches up with the other pages so it all feels cohesive. Basically.
And the biggest piece of feedback I have that just came to mind as you were talking is this one, which is we don't know if she's more of a researcher or a UI designer or a UX designer, just like we don't know exactly her path, if it's more in education or in graphic design, right? So I think that it would help at least here to Eugenia to really think about this one super deep, right? From a UI perspective, you're not there yet. You would just need to take a few more months to really get into UI, the depth of UI, of color theory, of type, of negative space. And in half a second, I can tell that you're not there, right? And a lot of hiring manager will just want to close the portfolio just for that. So if you feel like your strength is not in UI, I think that's totally fine, right? But I would say, maybe research is a better deal for me, and maybe that's where my strength lies actually, and that's kind of nice because it connects you with your former education skills, which are so great. Research and education, they go hand in hand so well. And then if that's truly the case, if you're more in the UX research side of things, I'm not worried about the UI design at all, right? And so that would not become a worry whatsoever in just a fraction of a second because I know you're a UX researcher, right? So I would just think about this alignment, right? I feel like ask yourself, am I more of a UX researcher, a UX designer, or a UI designer? And then based on that initial alignment, then I would work on the case studies and make sure they align exactly to that specific positioning.
Yeah. 100%. So I didn't hear both of your ratings.
Needs an overhaul.
Yeah.
All the reasons y'all mentioned.
Okay, so a meh.
No, I said no. I said like me too.
Me too. I thought you meant like a
aligned today. Okay. So much synergy.
Yeah.
Corporate jargon.
Yeah, all the synergy.
Yeah.
Just vibing. I love it. Well, regardless, Gina, you've done a great job. I think all of us, like, first of all, we all know how much work it takes to do this, and so I don't want this to get you down in terms of any negative feedback. It's more of so that you grow and so that you can improve this and then land your job and kick ass and take names. I think honestly, the storytelling, if you fix that one piece, just that one piece, that would already help quite a bit. So you cut down the length, tell a consistent story. It makes it that much easier to follow and understand your process.
And your positioning. Who are you?
So
storytelling, and tell us who you are. UX designer, UX, UI, or research? We want to know so bad. Yeah.
Totally. We do want to know. Well, we only have a couple more things, Grace, then we're going to hop off. So thank you so much for being here with us. So appreciative. So last palate cleanser question for you. So cheers to that. I forgot. I also have electrolytes with me, so it's also what I'm drinking. Okay. If you were in charge of the UX design for a time machine, what would be your top priority?
Ooh. I would give the user control of what time they want to be in. Wait, let me think. A time machine. So a time machine so they can go in the past and in the future. Okay. So in the past, I would make them probably sign a contract saying that they won't do anything in the past that might change the whole outcome of the world. Or no, actually that won't be fun. Wait, let me think of, like, I feel like there's so much potential in this product. I would see, like, there's so much like liability in this. Like, someone in the past could like change the whole course of history. That'd be cool. Like, for me, but for the world, maybe not. Maybe I would see.
Well, it depends on your view of time, right? Because some people believe that if I, like, for example, if I went back in time right now and then I started then changing the past, that I'd be living out a completely new timeline, that this timeline that I currently left would stay intact and go forward, versus other people believe it's a loop, right? That if I go back, that I'm affecting this current same timeline. So it depends on your view of time of whether or not there are separate streams all happening or if there's a single loop, and so it depends on your views. So I'll let you determine which one of those views that you believe.
I feel like time it could, at least from I see it as a user, you could either choose to go forward in time or backwards in time. When you go forward in time, there's always a concern that you might not be able to go back. And so I guess, the number one feature is making sure people can go back to their current time. Like that reassurance, like including that feature, like, oh, emergency happens, like, oh no, I'm getting chased by dinosaurs, I need to go back. So pressing button, going back in time.
Okay. So safety. Like, so number one priority is safety.
You need to be able to reverse your design decision. Reverse user control, reverse back button, restart button, error prevention. That'll be a number one feature.
It's a bit like AI. It's like, should we even do it? Because what are the repercussions of this thing? It's a bit like, like how they signed the AI letter yesterday or a few days ago, and they're like, wait, this is going too fast. We really need to think about this. It feels like it would be the same thing, because imagine, like, you know exactly what happened because you already lived that thing. You could go in the past and change whatever you want based on, anyway, it could be a gigantic mess. So it's like, should we even do it?
Imagine like thousands of people or millions of people are using that time machine all at the same time, changing narrative to based on how they want.
Yeah. Could be a mess.
It could be a huge mess, yeah.
Boom. Could you imagine you're sitting in your room and someone like in the past is somehow like moving things around, and you're just like seeing like the painting on your walls are changing and like just weird stuff's going down.
Yep.
Oh wow. Well, Grace, it's been so much fun having you. So deeply appreciative of your time. Where can people find you? Where can they support you? What projects are you working on?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is really fun. I really like this style of portfolio reviews and happy hour questions.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm currently working on many different random side hustles. The main side outside of my full-time job at EA. At EA, I design products for content creators and events. And on the side, I run a 50,000 member community called Design Buddies, and our mission is to help designers level up in their design career. So we try to ultimately help people land jobs by providing resources, design challenges to help people upskill. Also, we'll network. I've been connecting hiring managers, so you can join our Discord to be the first to find out about everything. Everything's free for our fellow job seeker buddies. I also create a lot of content about UX, career, life, travel blogs. And I mostly post on like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me there to access more content I create as well. It's all free. I've been also like running and swimming for fun. But yeah, join Design Buddies and follow me on socials.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you have any time to do nothing from time to time?
Sometimes I get really bored when I do nothing.
I can tell.
One time I was like on a cruise ship, and there wasn't any events going on besides people just lounging on lounge chairs. And I'm just like, I don't understand. At least for me, like, how do you just like sit there? Like, I don't know. I think like for me, doing random things all at the same time is like what I do for fun, which seems weird. I guess like counterintuitive, but at least my relaxation is like going for like a run or a swim where I like unplug from life and then like come back. So I swim like almost every day. I went swimming today, and my time to like unplug. Yeah,
love it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Amazing.
That's so great. I love that. But I highly recommend looking into meditation. It might change your life in an amazing way, because being able to sit still and like be with what's around you is like, I used to be able to not meditate. But
yeah, I tried meditation. I just got bored.
Like,
I don't know.
That's part of it, right? It's part of the boredom is definitely a part of it. It's noticing those feelings that come up and noticing the boredom that shows up and like allowing it to be there, giving it space. And I mean, when you're noticing you're bored, it means that things that happen late in your day or other times, it means it's that much more vibrant because you've experienced
it's like emotions. You gotta experience the lowest lows to experience the highest highs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just ending this.
But keep running, keep swimming, regardless. Keep doing a bunch of stuff because it's great to see. You've done so much for the design community. So yeah, keep going. Don't stop.
It's so fun. It makes me
Grace,
so happy
so
when people
awesome.
land jobs. Like I just want to help people like land jobs and like change their lives. Like and just like help them level up. It's like really fun because I've been able to connect with so many cool people through Design Buddies. I've been able to do a lot of speaking engagements, travel sometimes. And do a lot of like side hustle stuff, passive income as well. So honestly, like it's like super fun. It's like value to the community, also value to myself, which like is motivating for me to keep moving forward with everything. It's like fun. Like I just love like meeting cool people. That's like the coolest part of it.
Congrats. Well done. Amazing.
Thank you.
The best parts, for sure. Well, thank you for everything you do for the design community, Grace. We're so appreciative of your time. So good to see you. And cheers to you. And we'll hope to have you on
Thank
again.
you. Yeah, thanks
Cheers.
for having me on. Have a big cup
Cheers.
of water.
Yeah.
Staying hydrated. Hydro
Cheers.
homies.
Especially because you run so much. So let's go. Have a drink.